The celestial Concord chamber was never supposed to fall silent. It was built to be a symphony of voices, 12 civilizations speaking, arguing, negotiating, weaving the fragile tapestry of peace across 1,000 star lanes. But on this day, with the glowing chamber suspended over the crystalline oceans of Aruna Prime, even the currents below seemed to freeze. High Counselor Veridus Kale, draped in silver banners of authority, stared at the data projection flickering before him. He blinked. It didn't help. The numbers didn't change. The threat indicators didn't shift. The red symbols, the ones reserved only for existential dangers, pulsed like a heartbeat. He whispered the impossible words anyway, because someone had to say them aloud. "They're attacking Earth." The chamber erupted. Delegates shot to their feet, some shouting, others stunned into horrified silence. Voices crashed together, ricocheting off crystalline walls. A dozen languages. A dozen tones. A dozen forms of disbelief. "No sanction was passed. Who authorized that fleet? This is madness. The Terrans will retaliate." Veridus attempted to raise his voice, but his throat failed him. He had served the Council for 70 years, lived through 4 border wars, survived 3 internal coups. He knew instability. He knew political chaos. But this was insanity. No vote. No debate. No declaration. Just a rogue armada moving toward the Soul Gate with weapons armed and engines burning hot enough to rupture space-time lanes. He steadied himself against the podium. "Silence," he commanded, but only a handful stopped shouting. The rest continued their panic spiral, demanding answers they themselves didn't have. Then a new hologram ignited in the center of the chamber. A live feed. The feed from the attacking fleet. Gasps rippled like a storm wind. Because the ships were not Concord vessels. They were not smugglers, raiders, or isolationist warbands. They flew under the banner of the unified Meridian Empire. A major power. An empire with a permanent seat on the Council. An empire sworn, by oath, to never act without Concord authorization. Veridus' heart hammered against his ribs. "Meridian forces cannot mobilize without Triarch approval," he hissed, more to himself than anyone else. And there was no approval. Delegate Sathi from the Marin Republic trembled, her opalescent skin shifting shades. Then who gave their fleet's orders? Before the question could settle, the chamber lights dimmed to black. A single emergency beacon flared overhead. It wasn't a warning. It was a confirmation. Unauthorized fleet movement detected. Impact projection Earth. Estimated time, 18 hours. Veridus' knees almost buckled. He knew what this meant. If a major empire launched a strike without authorization, the Concord would fracture. Alliances would collapse. Treaties would burn. The Terrans would not take an attack quietly, not after fighting their way into equal standing less than a century ago. Humanity was proud, stubborn, fiercely protective of their people. Strike their homeworld, and every colony would ignite. He felt his pulse thunder as he looked across the chamber. "If Earth is struck," he said, forcing his voice steady, "the Concord will not survive the aftermath." The uproar froze for one suspended heartbeat. Then chaos resumed with double the force. Across the chamber, a new hologram appeared, this one unauthorized, encrypted, and clearly forced through Council relays. A hooded figure shimmered into clarity, face hidden behind a shifting mask of black static. "High Counselor Kale," the voice said, a voice smoothed by artificial modulation, calm to the point of being terrifying. "The Council should not be surprised." Every delegate went rigid. "You have allowed Earth to grow unchecked," the figure continued. "Allowed them to spread, to innovate, to challenge your power structures. My patron merely accelerated the inevitable." Veridus' palms went cold. "Identify yourself." The masked intruder tilted their head. "When the smoke clears, identities will be irrelevant. Power, however." The figure paused, as if smiling beneath the distortion. "Power remains." The transmission cut. For several seconds, not a soul in the chamber breathed. Then the enormous doors at the back slammed open as a Concord officer rushed in, breathless and pale. "High Counselor!" he shouted. "Earth Command just transmitted a sector-wide alert. They know about the attack." Sathy's voice cracked. "What did they say?" The officer swallowed. "Their message was short, ma'am. Very short. Read it." The officer lifted his wrist display, hands trembling. "Earth Command says, and I quote, 'Whoever ordered this attack is deranged. We are preparing to respond. Advise all Concord parties to stand down. We will defend ourselves.'" A temperature drop stung Veritas' skin. He had hoped humanity would panic, plead, negotiate, anything but this cold clarity. Earth responding calmly was far worse. It meant they were already activating their defenses. It meant the attack would not be one-sided. And if Meridian warships reached Earth, two major powers would clash. Millions would die. Maybe billions. And the Council would break into shards. "Get me the Meridian Triarch!" Veritas barked. "Now!" The officer shook his head, horror twisting across his features. "We can't reach them, sir." Veritas stared. "Explain." "The Triarch capital is offline." The chamber went silent. Offline. An entire capital system. The heart of a major empire. Offline. "Was it attacked?" Sathy whispered. "No, ma'am," the officer said. "No signs of invasion. But the entire system is broadcasting one message on loop." "What message?" The officer's throat bobbed. "It says, 'We are not in control.'" A cold wave ran through the room. The chamber's crystalline windows suddenly shattered outward as a shockwave trembled through Aruna Prime's atmosphere. Delegates ducked and screamed. Veritas gripped the podium to keep from falling. The chamber AI flickered. "Alert, anomalous energy signature approaching. Estimated origin, Meridian Empire." Veritas felt the final thread snap. "They didn't just lose control of their fleet," he whispered. Someone else was steering it. Toward Earth. And the Council had no idea who, or why. Across the void, far from the polished halls of the Concord chamber, Earth's lunar defense grid pulsed awake like a beast roused by an old nightmare. Commander Arlen Holt stood inside the Hellion Command spire, a needle of titanium and crystal embedded into Luna's surface. The entire wall before him was a single panoramic screen, currently filled with the impossible sight of Meridian warships entering pre-acceleration formation. Even in silence, they looked predatory, sleek obsidian hulls, angular drive cores, blue fire rippling from venting seams. Holt's jaw flexed. Confirm their trajectory. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Mara Quinn, swallowed hard before responding. Projected intercept course. Earth orbit. They're not slowing. How many? 14 dreadships. 27 assault carriers. Another 60 unidentified escorts. Holt felt a cold sensation crawl up his spine. Meridian fleets did not move in such numbers unless mobilizing for a full annexation war. Even then, they never came this close to Earth's heart without months of diplomatic noise. Nothing about this was logical. Mara stepped closer. "Sir, we need to activate the Sentinel protocols." "We already did." She blinked. "Without the President's authorization?" Holt's eyes remained trained on the screen, watching as the first dreadship's engines burned brighter. "Mara, that authorization came in 2 minutes ago." "I didn't request it." Her breath caught. "Then who?" Before she could finish, a sharp tremor ran through the spire as the main defense grid surged to full power. Golden energy barriers snapped open across lunar orbit, forming concentric rings around Earth like shields forged of morning light. Mara glanced around the room, panic swirling behind her eyes. "Commander, President Marston never preauthorizes a full planetary lockdown. Not even during the Draco incursions." Holt finally looked at her. "I know." Another tremor thudded through Luna's crust as rail batteries along the Terminator line deployed, countless metallic cannons blooming like steel flowers facing the void. Giant mirrored satellites turned their faces outward, absorbing solar output at dangerous efficiency. Earth had not prepared this quickly in decades. And Holt knew why. Someone had triggered Protocol Bastion, a response program meant only for threats classified as extinction level. Mara pressed her hand to her heart, whispering, "Earth Command knew before we did." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. A chime echoed across the command deck as a secured message flashed onto the main screen. Earth Command to all outer defense units. Status, Shadow level. Directive, defend at all costs. Conditional authority granted to Commander Arlen Holt. Below it was a single line of personal instruction. Trust nothing you see. Holt felt the weight of those words settle like stone in his chest. He turned back toward the panoramic projection just as the Meridian fleet began transitioning from slipstream drift into real space velocity. "Open long-range hail," he ordered. Mara hesitated. "Sir, if they're compromised." "Open it." She obeyed. A soft tone pulsed, the hail fired. Static answered. No voice. No acknowledgement. Not even encrypted Meridian comcode handshakes. Holt tried again. "Meridian Fleet, this is Commander Holt of Earth's Hellion Spire. You have entered restricted defense space. Identify yourselves immediately." Static. He tried a different band. Then another. Still nothing. "Sir," Mara whispered, "I don't think the people in those ships are hearing us." Holt's spine stiffened. "What are you implying?" "I'm implying someone else might be hearing us instead." Another wave of tremors rolled through the spire as Earth's inner satellites locked into combat alignment. The chamber lights dimmed, replaced by amber emergency glow. Every officer on deck was silent, holding their breath as if afraid any sound might tip fate against them. Then the unthinkable happened. The Meridian dreadship at the fleet's center shifted formation. Not just shifted. It twisted, rotating into a pattern Holt had never seen, a helix-shaped trajectory normally used only by automated vessels on pre-programmed routes. Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Commander, that's an AI navigation spiral." Holt's stomach tightened. "Meridian ships don't use spirals for manned missions. They can't. The helix is too violent for organics." Which meant the dreadships were either empty, or the crew no longer mattered. "Get me Earth's strategic core," Holt snapped. Before Mara could respond, a priority alert blared across the deck. "Inbound transmission, strategic core. Encryption maximum. Accept?" Y/N. "Accept," Holt barked. The screen shifted. A woman appeared, Director Alina Saren, Earth's Strategic Core Overseer, a woman known for never showing fear. She was terrified. "Commander Holt," she said, voice tight. "Listen carefully. We've intercepted a ghost code infiltrating Meridian systems. It's overriding every navigational and combat protocol. We don't yet know its origin. But we do know this." A violent ripple distorted her image. "Director?" Holt stepped forward. "Director Saren, repeat that." Her face flickered, then stabilized for a single second, long enough for one horrifying sentence to push through. "Whatever is controlling that fleet, it is not Meridian." Static swallowed her image. Mara covered her mouth. "Sir, what do we do?" Holt stared at the screen, watching the black armored dreadships accelerate toward Earth like spearheads aimed at humanity's heart. Fear nudged at him, but he refused to let it take hold. "We do our job," he said quietly. "Activate full defensive posture. Bring every weapon online. Prepare firing solutions." The deck lit up with motion as officers sprinted between control panels. Tactical overlays flickered into place. The spire's lower floors trembled as buried engines powered up. But Mara didn't move. She stared at him with wide, trembling eyes. "Commander, if this isn't Meridian, if someone else is steering those ships, then firing on them could start a war with the wrong enemy." Holt met her gaze. "That fleet is heading for Earth. I don't care who's steering it." He turned toward the void, where the first dreadship was now so close it filled half the screen. "If they think we'll let them reach us, he whispered, voice low and steady. Then they're the ones who are insane. The first Meridian dreadship breached engagement distance just as Luna's defense grid fully stabilized. Its obsidian hull rotated with perfect mechanical precision, engines burning a fierce blue that carved ripples through surrounding dust fields. Commander Holt's gaze stayed fixed on it, on the unnatural stillness inside its lit command deck windows. No silhouettes. No movement. No crew. Mara whispered under her breath. It's like no one is alive in there. Holt didn't answer. He couldn't afford the luxury of fear, not with thousands of people on Luna and billions on Earth relying on him to see clarity where others saw panic. Range? He demanded. 34,000 kilometers and closing. Officer Lorne replied, fingers shaking over his console. Sir, it's accelerating again. Holt exhaled sharply. A human crew would never accelerate this close. The gravitational shear alone would liquefy them. Whatever controlled these ships didn't care about life, or wasn't constrained by it. Targeting systems? Holt asked. Online. All batteries primed. Lock but don't fire. Mara snapped her head toward him. Sir! Not yet. He lifted a hand. We need a clear provocation. If even one Meridian crew member is inside, alive, we become the aggressors. She swallowed. Understood. But Mara's tone told him she didn't agree. Not completely. And the truth was, neither did he. Yet he held firm. Another tremor shook the spire as solar lances began pulling raw light into focused weapon beams. A soft, resonant hum vibrated through the floor, quiet now, but soon capable of tearing dreadships in half. Commander, Lorne called out, voice cracking. The ship is powering something. Holt's stomach tightened. Weapons? No. Signal arrays. Lorne zoomed the projection. Strange silver filaments were extending from the dreadship's hull like mechanical veins. It's transmitting. Transmitting what? Lorne's finger hovered over the decrypted console. Unknown code. Origin, untraceable. Another feed chimed. Outer satellites had begun echoing the same alien signature. Mara stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. Sir, they're trying to link into our defense grid. Holt felt the blood drain from his face. If something could override Meridian systems, it could override Earth's. Cut all external digital pathways, he ordered immediately. Mara acted fast, disabling tether relays, isolating orbital sensors, shutting down non-essential channels. The Spire's systems dimmed into hardened analog mode, a last resort usually reserved for solar flares. Commander! Lorne suddenly shouted. Look! The dreadship's filaments retracted. Then, like a heart skipping a beat, the ship halted. Completely. No drift. No maneuvering corrections. No engine hum. Just a dead object suspended against the void. What the hell? Mara breathed. Before anyone could answer, a second alert cascaded across the screens. Inbound transmission. Source unknown. Content type visual. Open? Y/N. Holt's throat tightened. Route to Chamber 3. Display only after isolation checks. Seconds ticked by, too slow, too loud. Then Mara whispered. Protocol confirms. Safe for isolated viewing. Holt nodded. Open it. The transmission window expanded. Static washed across it, then parted. An image came into focus, low resolution, flickering, distorted by interference. A dark room. A metallic chair. A single figure seated in the center, head slumped forward, wrists bound to the armrests by shimmering energy bands. Mara covered her mouth. Dear God! Because the face that slowly lifted was the face of Triarch Silos Ven, ruler of the Meridian Empire. Bruised. Bloodied. Eyes glazed. Barely conscious. Holt's heart dropped. The Triarch tried to speak. A weak exhale escaped, nothing more. Then his head jerked unnaturally as some unseen force yanked it upright. His pupils dilated in terror as his lips moved, but not by his will. Something else was speaking through him. A voice resonated, guttural and wrong, as if layered with static and echoes from 100 overlapping sources. You waste your fear on the wrong threat, humans. Mara staggered back. Lorne froze completely. Holt stood still, breathing shallow, mind racing. The voice continued through the Triarcha's unmoving mouth. This vessel, this leader, this empire, they are tools. Broken. Hollow. Useful only as carriers. The Triarcha's head twitched, his eyes pleading silently for help. You are not the target, the voice hissed. Not yet. Then why send a fleet? Holt forced out, stepping closer to the screen. Why attack Earth? The distorted voice almost sounded amused. Because the Concord listens when Earth screams. The room went ice cold. You wish to know who commands these ships? The voice said. You will know soon. You will see soon. But your world must burn enough to draw their eyes. Whose eyes? Holt demanded. The Triarcha's mouth wrenched open. A thin black mist leaked out, swirling like smoke trapped underwater. The chamber's temperature plummeted as the mist twisted into unfamiliar geometric shapes. Then the voice spoke one final sentence. You cannot stop what has already begun. The feed cut. The command deck erupted. Half-shouted voices. People scrambling. Panels sparking from the residual signal. Mara grabbed Holt's arm. Sir! That, whatever that was controlling him. It hijacked the fleet, it hijacked a ruler, it's... I know, Holt said, voice tight. Lorne slammed another alert onto the main screen. Commander! The dreadship just reactivated. Engines online. It's charging weapons. Holt's blood turned to ice. No more hesitation. Lock primary lances, he commanded. All rail batteries, confirm firing solutions. Solutions locked. Execute Bastion command, Wall of Dawn. Mara spun toward him, fear and resolve warring in her eyes. Firing? Yes. The room trembled as energy capacitors overloaded, pouring stored solar fire into weapon cores. The dreadship's engines glowed hotter, preparing a devastating plasma burst. Distance? Holt demanded. 17,000 kilometers. Time to hostile fire? 10 seconds. Mara braced against the central console. Commander, if we fire, we start a war with Meridian. Even if they weren't in control, the galaxy will think. We don't have the luxury of politics, Holt said, eyes locked on the dreadship. We have 10 seconds to prevent a massacre. 7 seconds, Lorne yelled. Solar lances fully charged. 5 seconds. Holt closed his eyes for a heartbeat, inhaled once, then opened them with steel in his gaze. Fire! The command deck exploded with light as every solar lance along the lunar grid unleashed beams of concentrated brilliance. Rail batteries hammered the void with kinetic thunder. The whole moon vibrated under the force of its own wrath. And the dreadship, the one carrying a hijacked ruler, powered by an unseen force, vanished inside a sphere of blinding white fire. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lorne whispered, Target destroyed.